Welcome to the Aussie Game podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. Midweek episode to cover off a bit of on-field action. We're also going to cover a bit of off-field stuff that's going on as well. We're going to get into the Matildas camp, see what's going on there, and we'll do a bit of an A-League men's preview because there's some absolutely blockbuster clashes this weekend. Isn't there, Mopper? And always plenty happening.
Oh, absolutely. We're hanging for Sunday night. There were some big games, weren't there? And, midweek again with the championship, a little bit in Scotland. And obviously we've got the build-up and plenty of other Australian stories as well relating to players, which we'll touch on later this afternoon. Plenty of debate on that one. I've seen plenty of talk on X and getting feedback on allegiances and that as well, which our viewers will no doubt have an opinion on. So plenty to cover. Let's get straight into it.
Strong opinions in Australian football. I can't believe it, mate. All right, let's get into it. Sunday night into Monday morning. What about a man of the match performance, including an assist for Josh Nisbet as his Roda JC won 2-0. And they're currently sitting 5th in the Eerste Divisie, right in the mix of those playoff spots. And on a good run of form, actually, Roda JC, and particularly Josh Nisbet, becoming a bit of a fan favourite over there, the little pocket dynamo. So good on you, Josh. Randers, they go down 2-1 to Frederica with Pauli in goals. Musa Toure also got 21 minutes off the bench in that one. Liam Chipperfield missed a penalty in his 69 minutes, but his Sion were still too good, beating Young Boys 3-1 and moved to 4th in Switzerland. Oh, mate, this was devastating, wasn't it? We had so many high hopes for Heracles. They were coming up against fellow strugglers, go-ahead Eagles, in their hope of avoiding relegation, and they lost 4-0. Ajdin Hrustic and Reece Bosnovsky both started in the midfield. What a rise that is for Reece Bosnovsky, being picked up by from Perth Glory, should say, and straight into the Eerste Divisie. So, yeah, unfortunately, the boys are on the wrong side of that result, and it's looking harder and more ominous, this relegation. So, fingers crossed for the boys. Hopefully, they can still pull themselves out of it, but not looking great just at the moment. What about the boys at Hibs, mate? They do Hearts and maybe Motherwell a favour, beating Celtic 2-1 at Celtic Park. Jack Iredale played a full game and played really well by the reports that I read, and Martin Boyle also played 60 minutes in that one. So that was a huge result for Hibs, and as I said, their rivals Hearts, they did them a little favour, and as I said, perhaps Motherwell as well, who are closing in from 4th on some of the big boys. And another set of Aussies did them a favour too. Ryan McGowan's Livingston, they almost pulled off a huge win over Rangers, but still pick up a 2-2 draw with Rangers equalising in the 88th minute. Oh, that was so close. That would have been such a good morning of results with an Aussie interest in Scotland. Matty Ryan made 6 saves, including an incredible double save against Barcelona, but it wasn't enough as his Levante lost 3-0. Not sure if you saw that double save, Mopper, but absolutely incredible. Tipped the first one onto the bar and then got the left mitt up from close range to tip it over. What a sensational double save that was, mate.
Yeah, he's been in great form, and he would have loved being at Barcelona. Hey, who wouldn't be? And he certainly showed off his goalkeeping skills. And what a moment, getting peppered by Barcelona all night and having a story to tell, at least with the double save. He pulled one off a couple of weeks ago too, didn't he? And he's just in great form, isn't he? January's just been onwards. It's just a shame Levante is struggling at the bottom, but. I'll tell you what, he's doing himself plenty of good favours, though, I think, depending on what happens at the end of the year. And obviously he's got the World Cup to look forward to as well. There'll be, I'd say, be in very high demand with what he's shown this year in the La Liga. It's a great competition, isn't it? And showcasing how good of a goalkeeper he is. And yeah, we just hope Levante can just maybe miraculously just pull off a bit of a run so he can stay with Levante and continue in the La Liga, because we want to see our best players in the best leagues, and he is definitely leading the way over there for his team. And it's just unfortunate that their defence isn't that much chop. Unfortunately, I've watched them a few times, and they're very open. And yes, he's pulled off many more saves other than that one. So yeah, good on you, Matt Ryan. He's a fantastic character and goalkeeper.
Yeah, but what an opportunity it is to come up against such world-class opposition week in, week out, and he's getting plenty of practice in goals for Levante. Let's head over to Italy. Jacinta Galabadaracci gets 16 minutes off the bench in Sassuolo's 3-2 loss to Fiorentina. Jess Nash, her teammate, was an unused sub in that one. Alessandro Gicardi, he was, of course, out for Parma's big 1-0 win over Milan, who were second last time I checked the Serie A ladder through suspension, but his side are now 11 points clear of relegation. So, yeah, a huge win for Parma in their pursuit of surviving in Serie A. Garang Kuol, he's unable to create a winner in his 16 minutes off the bench as Sparta Prague, I should say, draw 0-0 with Victoria Pleasant. And Jordy Bos played the first half and had 2 assists as he played left wing for Feyenoord. His side won 2-1 over second from bottom Telstar, but a star performance from Jordy Bos playing in that advanced position. That was very, very interesting, I thought, Mopper.
Yeah, well, he's in his younger days. We've seen him in Socceroos in a high position, and he's just dominant anywhere he plays on that left-hand side, isn't it? And yeah, just showing his array of skills and talent. And hey, like as I said, going into a World Cup, tactically it's important. I think we see this because if we need to push forward, he's a perfect opportunity to allow a bit more freedom if we need to chase something or get a goal. So it's definitely an option that would be seen by Popovic, let me tell you, because this boy can play anywhere on the pitch, not just left-hand side.
Yeah, you're right. We did see it more so under Graham Arnold, I think, with his more kind of 4 at the back system. He played more as a kind of left mid, but it's good for Tony Popovic to have that option, and even Poppers looked at different options for Jordy Bos as well, but just a talented player that could probably play in many, many positions. Let's quickly duck over to Croatia. There was 90 minutes for Frin Karadzic as his Osijek lost 3-1 to NK Lokomotiva. And in the MLS, some big news. Kai Truan and Ajdin O'Neill started in the centre of midfield for New York City in the MLS. Both Socceroos were substituted late in the game as their side drew 1-1. But what about Kai Truan coming straight into the starting lineup for New York City FC? And speaking of straight into the lineup, Lucas Harrington started for Colorado Rapids ahead of Rob Holding, who played 162 games for Arsenal and was one of their best in the season opener in the MLS. Unfortunately, it was a tough day for Colorado, losing 2-0 to Seattle, who are quite a good team. But what an endorsement that is for Lucas Harrington, the 18-year-old, being thrown straight into the starting lineup for Colorado.
Yeah, what a rapid rise Lucas Harrington's having. Obviously, we've seen him in the World Cup under-20s. He was one of those members as well from the Asia Cup as well. The stats were astounding, weren't they? They were absolutely fantastic. And you can see how much Brisbane has, gone off the ball ever since he's left. He's left a massive gap. And it just goes to show how, I'd even say world-class this kid's going to be, showing off his skills at this age. And, we're talking about a young kid here who's in the centre of defence. And MLS is very strong this year. Yeah, they were strong last year, but it just keeps getting stronger. He's going to have a fantastic, little development there in the next couple of years. So, and straight in the starting lineup just shows the pedigree and how they recognise his talent straight away. That's a huge bonus for him. So, yeah, if this bloke can play a full season, and I think there's big things ahead, and don't be surprised later as we move into the Asia Cup, he might be a bolter chief even in the future. This kid can handle it at this level. We've seen it.
Well, even I know we can't keep throwing these World Cup bolters in every time we talk, but there's Hayden Matthews has struggled with injuries, and we're probably looking for Kai Truan's played in that right centre back spot, but you know could be an option. Could be an option. As I said, I don't want to keep throwing out these World Cup bolters, but he's playing over there in one of the countries that the games are going to be. He's acclimatized. It wouldn't hurt to say bring him into camp in the international window, would it? Just as a development player.
Definitely not. He's absolutely, yep. It'd be great to see is the recognition and what he did for Brisbane and in the under 20s and straight off the bat here is just true recognition for what we're seeing. We're seeing a world class central defender come through here, and I've seen him play, and yeah, he's standing up to every challenge, isn't he? And yeah, don't be surprised. This bloke's going to have a big future. Just wrapping up Chiefs overnight, we had a huge win too for St. Pauli in a relegation 6-pointer. They beat Werder Bremen 2-1. Jackson Irvine played 80 minutes, and St. Pauli now sit in the relegation qualification spot. So they're seeing some light, and they're in some really good form. St. Pauli, they're clawing their way out. So hopefully that continues, and we see Connor Metcalf come back as well. So great weekend there for St. Pauli. All right, let's look at what also we missed on Sunday morning. Apologies to viewers, but Alex Bonetig, who recently made a transfer, he played alongside Kiwi Finn Sermon, with Bonetig starting and playing 84 minutes with 100% passing accuracy for Portland Timbers as they won 3-2 over Columbus. And the Aussies over in the MLS is quite huge at the moment. There's a lot of players over there, so we'll definitely get some good coverage and good views of a lot of players as they make their path through the MLS. It's, as we said, the competition is only getting bigger over there, and it is definitely a draw card. And definitely a draw card for American clubs who are looking at our talent stocks. If we move on to Tuesday morning, it was great to see the return of Charlie Grant. She was obviously missed the Matildas squad for the Asia Cup, but she's returned on the bench for the Spurs side as they progress in the Cup on 9-8 on penalties after drawing 2-2 with London City, who also are in the Women's Super League. So great result for Tottenham, but more importantly, great to see Charlie Grant back after a long injury layoff. On Wednesday morning, we move into today, and what a tough night it was for the championship. Again, backing up midweek. These clubs just don't get a rest. But we did have one exception, and it was our blue chip again, Riley McGree, once again doing a nice little 1-2 and follow-up run. He's just always there in the right position. He's just got the knack for it. He got his third goal in 5 now for Middlesbrough. They were held to 1-1 with Leicester. They did have a lot of chances again, like they did against Oxford on the weekend, but just couldn't put Leicester away. They were plucky Leicester, obviously fighting for survival as well after receiving a 6-point loss. But Riley McGree again, and another outstanding performance. He just continues to be the man on the right spot at the right moment. Geez, we're going to love this in the World Cup, isn't he? He is just going to be outstanding for us. I can't wait. Let's look at the other teams and the other Australians playing in the championship. We had Callum Elder put one into his own net, unfortunately, with Derby as they lost 4-2 to Hull. Hull's been in great form and in the playoff spots. Derby were just off it in the playoff spots, and it was a bad loss for Derby because it really puts pressure and a little bit of a gap now that they're going to have to chase down. We also looked at Swansea. They've been in good form of late, scored a late equaliser to draw 1-1 with Preston. So Cam Burgess in fine form, and so Swansea. It's a good result. Preston a pretty solid side, so Swansea continue some good momentum there. It was great to see again Nestroy Irukunda. He started again for the second time in a row, but unfortunately they lost to Ipswich 2-0. But Ipswich are right up there with Coventry and Middlesbrough chasing it down. I know they're 6 points off Borough at the moment in third, but they've got 2 games in hand and have been very solid all year. They're going to be a very dangerous side challenging Borough. And Watford had no answers for Ipswich. They were in control. Portsmouth, unfortunately, they had another tough loss after 2 wins on the bounce. They went down 2-1 to Wrexham. They went down 2-0 early, but they did get one back. And Ajdin Hrustic, got 40 minutes off the bench, obviously to a reaction being 2-0 down. So good to see Hrustic still get some time. But unfortunately, they did suffer the 2-1 loss to high-flying Wrexham, who were in that sixth spot and now have created a bit of a gap. We also seen Keely Adamson and Daniel Benny both get good minutes off the bench in QPR, but they got thumped 5-0 to Southampton, who have had a resurge in the second half of the championship. It wasn't a good night for QPR, but it's good to see our Aussies get some good minutes. If we go down a league, we go down to League One this morning. They had some games as well. Joe Gauci makes 0 saves but keeps a clean sheet. I can't believe that, looking at their defence too, Port Vale. But anyway, they must have had a lot of ball. And they finally got a win. It's far and two between for Port Vale, and they beat Northampton Town. Still got a lot of work to do, but good to see some confidence there. Caleb Watts takes the field at halftime, but his Plymouth knocked out the EFL trophy, which is the trophy for the bottom teams in the bottom leagues, and they got knocked out by Luton. Let's have a look at Scotland. They had one midweek game. They had a catch-up game, and it was the first clean sheet at Dundee United for Ashley Maynard-Brewer, who has leaked a few goals in his first few games, but he's played some top opposition. And they drew 0-0 with Aberdeen. These sides just were thereabouts in the top six, but they're just drifting further apart now with that draw. Zach Sapsod also got 59 minutes, while Ryan Strain got 31 minutes off the bench. Nicholas Milanovic, unfortunately, again, was an unused sub for Aberdeen. Hasn't seen much game time in the last few months. We move over to Holland now, and action in the Netherlands. Cam Pupion came in at halftime at ADO Den Haag's 1-0 win over Willem, and they extend their lead to 17 points over third place now. So you'd think they're pretty much home and hosed with only 10 games to go, and hopefully we can see Cam Pupion in the Eerste Divisie next year, which would be pretty good. Now, Chief, we have a story that has been followed. It's a story that's been breaking in the last few weeks called Breaking the Barriers. We just want to give a bit of an update of that Australian story that we've been following and share your thoughts on one of the concepts around the pyramid.
Yeah, this one has, I think it's labelled Breaking Barriers, and it's the guys at Football 360 are kind of putting this documentary together, basically looking at doing a Aussie version of the Welcome to Wrexham, and it's quite timely given Wrexham's win this morning, and they're a very good chance of 4 back-to-back promotions, which is absolutely crazy. And we've seen clubs go up the pyramid quite quickly in the past, but there's no way that anyone has ever done it potentially this quickly. So to see Wrexham in the Premier League next season would be unbelievable, given the fact that they were in non-league 4 years ago now. But this one is, it's a documentary series. The feature club is Berwick City SC, and basically the premise of it is to follow, similar to Wrexham, and they're attempting to get the club from the Victorian State League Division 2 Southeast to the A-League. So we all know that that's obviously not possible to get promoted into the A-League, but if it were possible, in theory it would be their current division into Victorian State League Division 1, NPL Victoria 2, NPL Victoria Australian Championship, and then the A-League. So it will be 5 promotions, and as I said, Wrexham are a chance to do 4 back-to-back promotions. But I think, while it's not possible, and it's probably just an interesting concept that's being put together, but maybe it's going to highlight some of that romance that we're not getting for the fact that we don't have an open pyramid. And, you and I were just talking before we started recording, mate, about how good it would be just to open it up and have people invested in smaller clubs that actually just want them to do whatever they can and be successful. But it's just not possible in this closed kind of leagues that we're in at the moment. But I just think that, hopefully it kind of brings some things to light. And, there was even some stories during the week about, some of the bids that went in years and years ago and the stories behind them. And and how they weren't letting certain clubs in. So I think we just almost need to get out of our own way in a sense, just to kind of start promoting the game forward. But yeah, I'll definitely kind of watch on with interest as to how that's going to look. It won't be the full glitz and glamour of the Welcome to Wrexham, but I think it should continue the conversation around allowing smaller clubs to get promoted through the leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you look at where overseas is the blueprint, which is, nearly every league's got promotion. Well, probably every league's pretty much got promo and relegation, apart from probably America, well, majority anyway, I should say. And it's the theatre, it's the history. It's all based on football merit. It's not just based on the best football team. Sometimes it's the best run football club. And it just opens up so many opportunities, doesn't it, for people to be involved in the game. And it creates that mantra, doesn't it? And you can see how glued Australians are, and everyone in the world are glued to like the Premier League and non-league and League One, League Two, and watching that Welcome to Wrexham story. Like it's is some Hollywood influence, and yes, I don't know if Nicole Kidman or Hugh Jackman or Kate Blanchett or even Chris Hemsworth might own a club one day, but that's who knows. Russell Crowe, you just never know. And it's not just them; it's the football people that you can see how passionate some of these state league clubs are, and what to them just begging for an opportunity to prove that their football club belongs in the A-League the proper merit way. So I think it's a lot of merit behind the documentary and the story, and hopefully we get to see it, because we'd love to see it come to life. And it's a point of difference too, because football offers that. No other league or code really offers that, do they? And that's why it's the world game and the best game in the world, isn't it? Because of all that mantra that it brings. So, yeah, look, it's no doubt your local club could one day have that dream, and that might be in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, who knows? And people will get involved. And it might not, it's not always the pinnacle. Some local communities just want to be in one of the state leagues, you know what I mean? Because they just want that opportunity to prove and build their base of their club. So, yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's another good example, isn't it, of what we can do for our game in Australia. And yeah, like I love your point on just removing everything and just like you know what I mean. And it's good, interesting to hear those points too. Just remove everything and just can't remember, was it one of them said just this is what's stopping us to start it. You know what I mean? What are we waiting for? But yeah, well, like you said, there's a few probably licensing issues and stuff like that. But hey, it doesn't have to be at the top level. It can be started at the bottom. You know what I mean? Once those licensing issues with the A-League hit that time, we'll be ready to rock and roll. Who knows? But yeah, it's really cool stuff. And
interesting you say that though. There was even some things flying around during the week about the licenses not even being a thing for 2034. So whether that's just a handy excuse, you're right. Like we do see investment already, and I just wonder how much more investment we could have in the game if we did open it up. And I know that might put some noses out of joint at the top level, but for the betterment of the game, this could be a real possibility.
Yeah, no, it's a really good story. Thanks for that, mate. All right, let's look at another one that's breaking headlines over the weekend. And the Italian media are reporting that Socceroos coaches Tony Popovic and Paul Ocon are in Italy to convince Christian Volpato to play for Australia at the World Cup. So, yeah, very interesting. If we look at probably some of the facts and back-end story to Volpato's journey, well, he was at Sydney United as a youngster. He was born in Cambertown in New South Wales. He joined Sydney FC in 2016. They moved over to the Wanderers before moving over to Roma, and now he's at Sassuolo. He's had 49 appearances for Sassuolo, 6 goals. He's 22 years of age. He'll be 23 this year in November. And he's played for Italy under 19s, 20s and 21s. So he has had some pedigree with his youth development there. And also, too, Graham Arnold reached out to him 4 years ago in regards to it, and he turned the Socceroos down. And I think probably it made probably a comment, which, probably a younger player has made that probably put a few people off at the time, whether it was sarcasm or whether it was just his naivety, who knows. But, yeah, put a few people off, but it's come back around the radar. and has opened up some great topic talk. And we have had some great topic talk. We talked about a few players at the younger level, and a few of our viewers popped in questions on how do we attract them. So, yeah, it's great conversation. All right, I'll throw it over to you, Chief. And, does this move go against the morals? We heard Popovic says you got to earn your shirt and, we don't chase people. Or is it just trying to recapture lost time or opportunity in trying to reach out to Volpato, and because he is a dual citizen, so he can choose between Italy and Australia, and he hasn't been capped at senior level, so he can represent both countries.
Yep, and that probably sits right where my mixed feelings are, because I think both of those things are true. If he is chasing Volpato, it is contradicting what he has said in the past, and we've lost someone like Nectar Triantis to Greece for a very similar reason, because, he's chosen to go and play for someone else, and Tony Popovic hasn't chased him. So if these reports are true, Popovic is going against what he has said in the past. And I'm sure that if Christian Volpato is selected in the March squad, that those questions will be raised. So they definitely should be. My feelings are very conflicted on this. I want our best possible squad to do the best that we can possibly do at the World Cup. And if that includes Christian Volpato, who is playing in the Serie A of Italy over a player who is playing at a lesser standard and is a lesser quality, well, then maybe that's okay. But on the other side of it, it's almost like, as you said, the comments 4 years ago, and perhaps at 18 years old, he's said and done things that many 18-year-olds do, and maybe later regret them. I think a lot of Australian fans will have their nose out of joint a bit as well because of what he's said in the past, and now he's kind of been welcomed into the camp with open arms potentially. So I'm really conflicted as to what I think of this report, if it's true. What about you, mate?
I'm not fussed about. I know probably a lot of people are, and it creates good media talk, but I'm not fussed about these allegiances. I just look at what we've got. Whether he's passed. Things change over time, doesn't it? Because when is the right time to make a decision on it? Because he's 22 now. He hasn't been capped at senior level for Italy. He hasn't played 21s since 2024. So is this his timeline to say, well, will I make it? Is Australia now my best opportunity? And this happens to a lot of players. And I don't begrudge them for anything, because realistically, we've seen some players sign up for Malaysia this week, to represent Malaysia, and that's fine. It's their choice. It might be their only chance to represent internationally, and we know what that opens up for players. And you'd be crazy not to think about it. So I'm very diplomatic on that. Every individual's different. I think my personal opinion on this is I look to what we've already got. I love Archie Goodwin in America with Charlotte. I think he's got a great future. We've seen Adrian Segacic. We've seen Toure. We've seen Irakunda. We've seen Satsford. The list goes on and on. We've even seen Musa Toure, Jovanovic. There's so much talent out there. Is it better to whatever age bracket or level it is there? Well, all them pretty much those players I've mentioned are in that 19 to 22 bracket. So, I'm not fussed at all. I think there's plenty of Australian talent, and and they've done well. I'm so excited for all those age brackets we talked about, performing high in A-League, pushing themselves in the MLS. We've got kids at this age now breaking into the championship, playing week in, week out. Scottish Premier League, they're starting each week. That's more of a story for me. If they get Volpato, whatever, is he going to, it's muchness and muchness for me. I just think we've got plenty of depth, and I think if he wanted I need to see it from the player to be convinced that he wants to play for Australia for the right reasons. But I think when you get to this age, it's like, oh, is Italy going to pick me or not? I don't think we'll probably get him. That's my personal opinion, because I think he'll wait and see how Italy goes over the next couple of years, because they're not even in the World Cup yet. They're still got to qualify. So, play a spade for spade. As a player, you've got to go to the best opportunity. But, I'd it would be divided opinions, no doubt, throughout the football community. But I just think, look at our own talent, what we've already got.
He is not going to play for Italy anytime soon. He is coming off the bench for Sassuolo. So he is kidding himself if he thinks he's going to get into that Italy team if they even make the World Cup. So he's well off that. Well off that. And probably the thing that, as you were talking there, that kind of frustrated me was the fact that when you talk about our talent in the current squad, players who are desperate to play for the Socceroos, desperate to play for Australia. And now we're talking about someone who was openly dismissive of the Socceroos at a previous time. So we're just going to let that slide and just let him come back in. Like, that's, as I said, I want our best possible team to go on and win the World Cup, but it's a bit hard for me if it's at the expense of someone who is of equal or even slightly lesser talent that is desperate to play for Australia. Look at how many players have come back to the A-League just to get some game time to push their case to go to the World Cup. And it just shows you that these players couldn't think of anything better than going and representing Australia at a World Cup. And I just don't think Volpato is there. If you need the head coach of the Socceroos and his assistant to go over there and plead their case and try and convince you to come and play for Australia at the World Cup, as I said before, it goes against what Tony Popovic has said in the past. And I just don't think that's the type of player that we want in there.
Definitely. Some good talking points there. All right, we'll leave that one there. Anyone, viewers, if you've got any comments, love to share. So send a few in and we'll hopefully get some time. I know Sunday night's going to be a blockbuster because we've got Matildas game. We'll try to answer as many as we can. Love to hear your thoughts because I think this is a great debate. It's exciting to hear what the fans are saying about this, Chief. All right, mate. Let's wrap it up. What do you got for the Matildas? It's game week. We're in town. What do you got for us?
Yeah, well, just before the Matildas came out, I was really quite surprised at how many Matildas actually played kind of overnight Sunday into Monday morning. So we had a full game for Charlie Rule. So Brighton won 2-1 in the FA Cup over West Ham, whose Katrina Gorry came off the bench for 26 minutes. We also saw Arsenal advance with a 3-0 win over Bristol City. Caitlin Ford played 90 minutes. Steph Catley came off very late in that game. Kyra Cooney-Cross wasn't in the matchday squad. We also saw Sam Kerr come off the bench and grabbed a goal for Chelsea. They needed extra time to get past Man U 2-1 in the FA Cup. Ellie Carpenter also played the full game in that one. Mary Fowler started for Manchester City, playing 63 minutes as they beat Sheffield United 4-0. Winnie Heatley played a full game in Roma's 1-0 win over Inter in this top-of-the-table clash, extending their lead to 6 points. So, yeah, I was quite surprised that the Matildas, but I suppose that's the club's option to play them for as long as they can. But they all are now in camp as of today, being Wednesday. So we look forward to seeing them get through their processes, hopefully get over the jet lag as quickly as possible in full preparation for Sunday.
Hey, great news, Mary Fowler starting. We seen her return a couple of weeks ago and suffered a knock in training. So great to see her starting too, getting 63 minutes. That's pretty confident and good news for the Matildas.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think that she'd be anywhere near those kinds of minutes, but yeah, it's a good sign for the Asian Cup.
All right, mate. Let's go to Matilda's updates. Love these two stories that you picked out. Do you want to share it with us?
Yeah, so Remy Simpson and Hayley Razzo, they got into camp a little bit earlier than some of the other girls. So Simpson spoke of the anxiety she felt leading up to the call from Joe Montemurro, expecting the worst, but then so relieved after finding out she made the squad. Said she had to have Courtney Nevin over at her place, who only lives 10 minutes away, to come and support her through that process. So she also spoke of wanting to make an impact and lift silverware after the disappointment of missing out on the World Cup squad. So great to hear that from Remy. And then Hayley Razzo also spoke to the media about embracing the pressure and the expectation on this group to be successful. She also mentioned how much they can take from the experience of playing at a home tournament, having previously played at the home tournament, being the World Cup in 2023, and how much they learned from that. So they're looking forward to playing an exciting possession-based style under Joe Montemurro and looking forward to entertaining the fans as well as being successful. So yeah, great to hear from those two ladies.
Yeah. Yeah, well done, Remy. Beautiful moment. Thanks for sharing that beautiful story. You're a golden girl, and have a great time. And yeah, enjoy your football. And great to see Courtney Nevin there, always in support. Hayley Russo, she's the Iron Woman, isn't she? Hey, embrace the pressure. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love her mentality.
Did you see the video from Alex Chidiac during the week as well, where it showed her reaction when she got her call from Joe Montemurro? So very emotional and very raw reaction from Chids, who we were pretty surprised she got the call up, and by the sounds of it, she was pretty surprised as well.
No, it's awesome. It's just, this is what it's all about, isn't it? Great stories, and yeah, they'd be lapping it up. What an experience! It's so emotional. It's fantastic. All right, mate. Let's look on to this week's action. Obviously, an absolute smorgasbord this week across the Australia and internationally. I've even seen that Celtic are playing Rangers this weekend as well, so Hearts will have another massive opportunity as they edge towards that match 33 when they split in the top 6. And then we've got some A-League men's preview as well, mates. And we start with a very exciting contest, bit of a derby, Melbourne versus Adelaide on Friday night. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, the original rivalry being built up already. Good ticket sales. You mentioned this on Sunday, always plenty of fireworks in this game. So looking forward to another big game. And what about the form that both these teams are coming in on the back as well? Like Melbourne victory, that 3-1 win over City in the derby, and then 4-0 to Adelaide United over Perth Glory. So not only the rivalry, but both teams in form. Both teams do tend to want to play free-flowing, attacking football. So, mate, it's going to be an absolute cracker, isn't it?
Yep, they've come an age victory, haven't they? I think last week was the first time that we've seen them right back. That mentality was huge. So, and Adelaide just the youth just keeps on giving. The fountain of youth, and without Craig Goodwin, they've just stepped it up again. So, yeah, I hope this is a massive crowd of 20,000 plus. It deserves it. The football that they're going to put on from both coaches and players will be top class. All right, mate, we move on to Saturday. What about this one? Is this still a dire make or break for Melbourne City away to Auckland?
Oh, geez, it might be. Particularly when you look at the other fixtures as well, because victory in 5th and MacArthur in 6th, if both of those teams win and City lose to Auckland, that gap starts to become quite big in terms of them getting into those final 6 places for the finals. But yeah, they're going to want to lick their wounds and pull out a good result after they were just not at it at all in the Melbourne derby, were they? And Auckland just efficient as always. Obviously, they came off the big win against Wellington Phoenix 5-0 as well. So yeah, they'll be definitely up for it, Auckland FC, and what a huge challenge this is for Melbourne City in the early kickoff on Saturday. And what about following that one, mate? The F3 derby, Central Coast Mariners versus Newcastle Jets. Plenty of banter flying around on social media.
Yeah, well,
today, both teams getting stuck into each other nice and early, which is what you want to see, and hopefully it's an absolutely bumper crowd there at Central Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. And you shared that you're going up with the family, which is fantastic, adding to the charm and the fans of Roscoe, number one Central Coast Mariners fan, will probably be debated up there, but he is very passionate. He's been following the Mariners since day dot. And against Newcastle, the table leaders, the ones that are on fire, didn't play their best football last week, but still doing the job. And who could forget? It was almost like game of the year in game one, wasn't it, between these two? They
Yeah.
had so much drama in that first time they met, and Central Coast were going through all that ownership issues right back at the beginning we're talking about, and then Redmayne the hero, and then penalties, and then just this game had it all. So yeah, wouldn't it just be nice to see? And I hope you're right about the ticket sales, that this game just attracts one of the biggest crowds and really brings life back in the Central Coast, because they're on fire. They're close to the playoffs now. They're making a little run. So, and then Newcastle on top and so close together. So let's hope we've got 10 or 15,000 there, yeah, because this game will deserve it. And look, every time I think the Mariners in their patches that they play some of that ordinary football that I think is just not going to be good enough, but they hang in there and just persist. And yeah, this another game. It could be anything. What are your thoughts? What will happen?
I'd love to see the Mariners keep chipping away and getting into the finals. One thing I didn't realise when we spoke about them on Sunday is that they've actually got a game in hand against Macarthur in a couple of weeks' time. So they do have that to their advantage, and they're only 3 points behind Macarthur. So yeah, that could be a massive game in a couple of weeks' time in terms of that playoff mix. But geez, I don't know. Toss of a coin. This one, I think you can genuinely throw form out the window in this one. I know the Jets weren't at their best, but they've been hot. But the way the Mariners are so plucky and resolute, and I think their signings in January have added so much. Donnell, Orgler, Laval, geez, they've just added so much to their attacking threat. It was one of their things at the start of the season. Defensively they weren't too bad, but they just couldn't score goals. And now with the addition of some of those players, they're doing really well. So I'm really just hoping, as you know, obviously I'm going to the game, but I just want to be a thoroughly entertaining game, maybe a 5-4 or a 5-all. That's all I ask for, mate.
Good stuff. All right. Yeah, next game is going to be interesting. Brisbane, they've got a run of games that they could possibly bounce back, and Perth Glory seem to be lost in the last few weeks. I've even seen a few reports saying they're not sure about next year, or could just be media reports. That would be a shame, because I think Griffith's got a lot to offer. But yeah, has Perth got any life still left in them? And as Brisbane, will they seize the moment to bounce back in the playoff contention?
Yeah, tough one to call this one. Brisbane also haven't won very often in the last kind of 5 or so games either. So both teams probably not in the best form. But as we said on Sunday, this is really Brisbane's opportunity, playing against the bottom 3 teams over the next 3 weeks, to really make a charge for the finals. They only play Sydney FC as the top 6 team in their last 8 games. So really an opportunity for them to take it if they're good enough. So yeah, interesting one. Perth obviously played Adelaide last week, then they'll play Brisbane, and then they're off to New Zealand to play both of the New Zealand clubs. So they'll be getting on the road for a while. So that's going to be pretty tough for those players, you would think.
Yep, absolutely. And the Battle of the West, Macarthur at home to Western Sydney. Should get another good crowd in this one. We normally see when these two play a good turnout. And yeah, this is desperate times for Western Sydney. We've made some signings. It's time to deliver, isn't it? We've seen deliver in patches. And Macarthur, though, will they bounce back to their best?
Yeah, they were actually pretty good, weren't they, against Newcastle last week? They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, but created plenty of chances. And if they can do the same against the Wanderers, you'd think that they'll have too much to get over the line. They don't have ACL2 to concern themselves with anymore. Western Sydney, on the other hand, yeah, they just need something to get out of their season, but they're not that far off even playoffs if they can put some games together. There's still time, but they probably have left it too late. But yeah, interesting with the signings they've brought in, but they're already talking about a clean out in the off season. Some of their bigger names as well, just to we spoke a couple of weeks back about what they actually do in the off season and how they tackle next season after such a disappointing season. This one, obviously, the sacking of Stajic as coach, and then Gary Van Egmond coming in as their interim manager as well. So how do you think this one will go? I hope that you're right in terms of a big crowd. Hopefully Western Sydney fans in particular travel down there.
If there's any team I don't want to play at the moment, it's actually Macarthur. I just think they're ready to. I've seen signs of Macarthur all year, but without ACL2 now, I just think the squad they've got, they're ready for a big run home. I just think they've got a really good squad and depth. If I was Western Sydney, I wouldn't want to play them, especially away. I think we're going to see MacArthur make a real charger. We've seen signs of it last week. They probably should have got a result last week, but they had Asian Champions League to come off the back of that. Now they're fresh. Yeah, I would not want to go to MacArthur, but yeah, I see MacArthur edging this one. Western Sydney are always competitive these days, but I just think the volatility and the instability at that club is going to hurt their run home. But they certainly do have individuals that can make a difference. But again, it's that whole connection, isn't it, that's missing.
They are strong, MacArthur, though,
All right.
aren't they? Like tough backline, experienced in the middle there with Uzcock and De Silva. You got Talbot bombing down the right-hand side as well. And then, that midfield, like that 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago, that midfield was unplayable. In Bratton, Caceres and Rose. And then you got the exciting wingers and Vickery, and depending on who they play on the other side. And then your options up front, you can play Duke or you could play Sawyer. And they just have lots of coverage all across the field, don't they? It'd be interesting to see what happens with the goalkeeping position, whether Robinson has given another go. I don't think he did anything particularly wrong, so maybe he'll start again in front of Curto. But they're a dangerous side coming into the last little stretch of the season.
Yeah, to beat McCarthy, you need speed, and I don't think Western Sydney Wanderers possess it. And I just think they're just the matchup's a complete advantage in MacArthur's favour. Not to say that Western Sydney's slow, but I just think they don't have the natural speed of what some other teams have. But anyway, it'll be interesting. Get out, fans, and that'll be at Campbelltown. All right, and then lucky last Sunday, the 1st of March, over in Wellington at 1 p.m. is Eastern Standard Time, is Sydney FC travelling to Wellington. And are we going to get a manager bounce in this one? We've got a new coach or interim coach in there looking after Wellington. What's going to happen in this one? And Sydney FC, on the other hand, well, they need to stay in touch with the top if they want to compete for that top position.
Yeah, Chris Greenacre has come in as the interim manager, replacing Giancarlo Italiano. Tough one for Wellington Phoenix. They're definitely going to hope that they're going to get a bounce, because they just weren't at all against Auckland FC in the derby. Sydney FC, on the other hand, they've been a bit up and down, haven't they? Probably not the most convincing win for them the other night. Just the 1-0 over Brisbane Roar. They're okay against Auckland, but then threw those points away late. So, they haven't been in top form, Sydney FC. Maybe Wellington Phoenix might be able to get that manager bounce, but it certainly would be an upset. I would expect Sydney FC to win this one and maybe win it comfortably. What do you think?
Yeah, too many big players that can produce one moment, isn't it, Sydney FC? We've seen it with Quintel, Golly. There's a few of them. Stamtopoulos is in there now. They got depth. But geez, I don't know. Wellington are risky, aren't they, with this new coach? It could just be a little springboard, a little bit of change in tactics. It just could be the new version. So and they did sign some good players in January, Wellington. So we just haven't seen it click. But yeah, again, another game where travelling away over there. It's a bit of a dangerous game for Sydney FC, and they'd be spewing if they drop points here, because they'd probably be expected to win, and they need to win because they need to stay in touch with Newcastle and Auckland. So it's a tricky one. All tricky contests, aren't they? They offer something different, each of them. But I will tell you one thing. I think the crowds this week are going to be really good. Like, I think Melbourne Victory is going to get a huge crowd home at Adelaide. I think Auckland FC will get a good crowd against Melbourne City. I think Central Coast and Jets will probably see the Central Coast's biggest crowd. I think Brisbane, hopefully, you can get some numbers there. And MacArthur Western Sydney is always a good draw card. Just not sure about Wellington, but being a bit of the position that they are, but they are attracting Sydney FC. So, I think we're going to get some good numbers this week, Chief. And there were some good numbers last week, and I think the crowds are definitely back. And it's all due to the A-League being competitive and seeing some great talent out there.
Yeah, for sure, mate. Let's hope that we do see some great crowds over the weekend and some great football as well. Just want to briefly mention that Norwich are playing Sheffield Wednesday tomorrow morning as part of that wrap of midweek championship games. We'll see if Mo Toure can get back on the score sheet. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Another Hattie would be fantastic. Smash it, smash Wednesday. Wednesday got relegated on the weekend. I think it
Yeah,
was
they
the
did too.
earliest one
Yeah.
ever to be relegated. They've only won once this year, in a very sad story of ownership and turmoil there. So some clubs, they're not the only ones, are we? There's plenty around. But yeah, so
Yeah,
good on.
that was a horrible situation.
Yeah, so especially one of the grand old ladies of football over there. So anyway, we'll see what happens, and then yeah, obviously we've got the Matildas this weekend with some massive clashes in overseas action too for a lot, and the MLS has obviously kicked off last week in full swing. So yeah, it's going to be all happening. Scotland, the title race is on for young and old, and I know Celtic's got a midweek European game tomorrow morning as well. So yeah, this massive contest, and the champion just keeps on going and going and going and going. That's what we love about the championship. It's like the Cool and Gutter Gold, isn't it? Just long distance.
What a reference. Hey, so 3-hour show on Sunday it is then, mate.
Yeah,
No, it's all good.
could be.
Nah, it's all good. Yeah, thanks for your company tonight, mate. I'm going through some of that midweek wrap, talking about some of those off-field issues and doing that A-League preview, as well as some insights into the Matildas camp. Hopefully we get a few more in the next couple of days as we lead into that big game on Sunday night against the Philippines. So we'll be back on Sunday to report on that game and to go through a usual midweek wrap. But in the meantime, enjoy football.
Yes, see all Matildas fans in Perth. I'm heading over on the weekend, so see you over there. I can't wait.